Tom, thanks for joining me today. Really great to have you. You know that our company Boost runs on EOS. We're very passionate about EOS, which stands for Entrepreneur Operating System. So, can you just, before we jump into EOS, give kind of a brief introduction to who you are and what you do?
Sure. And it's a pleasure to be with you. I appreciate it. Tom Restivo, I am an EOS implementer, 17 years prior, building a very large multi-location eye care practice. We had 12 locations, 2 surgery centers, 19 doctors, and we were seeing a little over 100,000 patients a year.
Hmm.
And that was a great run. But sometime after COVID, I decided it was time to go to the next chapter. And a couple people said, you'd make a great EOS implementer. You love working with leadership teams. So it was the logical next step.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so, how would you define EOS for those listening that are not familiar with the term?
Mhm.
What would be your kind of overview and definition of what is EOS?
Super. Well, as you mentioned earlier, it's the entrepreneurial operating system. And when I first heard that, my mind went to computers.
Hmm.
And which it is not, but it's an operating system is how you run a business. Everyone actually has an operating system. It's just something that they've typically cobbled together. It's just been their way of doing things. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not so great. And so
Hmm.
what EOS does, they really created a framework that works incredibly well for businesses, typically 10 to 250 people, tends to work the best. And this gives them a framework for
Hmm.
working through every component of the business and doing it incredibly well. Ultimately, Cade, we want to get practices to at least 80% strong in each of those 6 key components.
Hmm.
And interestingly, when people self evaluate, they put themselves at about 40% strong.
Hmm.
So within usually 2 years, if we can take you from 40% to 80%, it's an amazing difference.
Pretty strong. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Why do you think every kind of private practice should run on EOS? I mean, obviously you and I have a shared experience with ophthalmology practices, but it's really kind of true of any medical practice. In fact, ironically enough, I was talking to a client today in Wichita Falls and they run their practice on EOS and it's kind of transformed their lives. The doctor bought it in 2021. He said every single employee in the practice was asking him every single question. He's also trying to, manage patient care and surgery and all this stuff. And so they implemented EOS and it's been transformative. And so
Mhm.
from your experience, not only being in a practice for nearly 20 years, but now working with other practices as they implement EOS, what's your biggest kind of case to be made that every practice should run on EOS?
Mm. Great question. So physicians are very, very bright people. And oftentimes they have some business background, but they're
Mm.
so used to working in the business. That's what they do on a daily basis. This helps them step back and work on the business. And it helps them create a leadership team that can be doing most of that heavy lifting throughout the week so they can focus on the patients, but still step back and see this is an incredibly well run business because that's a crucial part of it. We can't deliver great care if we don't have a strong business. So this allows them to have both.
Mm.
And really, it brings clarity to where a lot of people find themselves in chaos.
Mm.
And that can make running a business, a practice, a
Mm.
pleasure again.
Mm. Do you there's so many tools and resources and in components to EOS, and so it's impossible to cover it in the brief time we have here. But when you think about the methodologies, the tools within EOS, what are a few of the ones that you have found kind of make the biggest impact in your practice? Is it having a visionary and integrator? Is it the VTO, the vision traction organizer? Is it the accountability chart? Is it getting on a good meeting cadence with the L10s? Is it the scorecard? Is it the quarterlies? And I know all of it's good, because
It
you and
is.
I run on EOS, so all of it's important. But if you were to kind of highlight or target the few things that you've seen kind of make the biggest impact in your experience, what has it been?
The biggest impact that happens immediately is the level 10 meeting.
Hmm.
That is the low hanging fruit. Within probably 2 weeks of working with an implementer in EOS, practices say, wow, this has been a game changer for us because, well, first of all, the reason they call it a level 10 meeting, if you ask most people, hey, rate your meeting. How would you say the meetings are at your practice? The common answer is 4.
Hmm.
I've heard as high as 6, and I've heard
That's high.
I know. And I've heard some zeros, as in
Yeah.
we just stopped having meetings because they weren't productive.
Hmm.
So if you can take a company from, "Hey, it's been a 4, we really don't like having meetings, but they're a necessary part of the business," to, "Hey, it's a 10," which means we accomplished a lot in that meeting
Hmm.
and we worked well together, which doesn't always mean that we agree. And that's
Hmm.
something that I've found very interesting in my EOS journey. When I was running the clinic, I really thought everyone had to be really seeing things from the same viewpoint. And it's interesting that, hey, it's great to have different viewpoints because that's how we get to the best decision. And in a level 10 meeting, you're really able to give your viewpoints, be open and honest. And at the end of the meeting, we walk out as a unified team.
Hmm.
And that is one of the best things that a practice needs. And I've seen this through my 30 years in eye care. Oftentimes, doctors and even staff get divided into different camps. And then that's when it starts to tear at the fabric of the culture. So through that level 10 meeting, we get on the same page, the leadership level and throughout the organization. So that's the easy win.
Hmm.
And then the VTO. I mean, if you don't know where you're going and how you're going to get there, it's just not going to happen. And it's
Yeah.
not going to, and if it does, it's not going to happen in an efficient way. So this allows the doctor and all the staff to get on the same page. Where are we going?
Hmm.
How are we going to get there? And if someone's not right for the team, that's okay, but let's find it out now. Because if you and I don't want to go to the same place, we need to find out now.
Yeah, that's good. What are some of the most common hurdles you've seen specifically with medical practices that have a lot of doctors, a lot of people working behind the scenes, kind of can be at times very chaotic. Okay, they make a commitment, we're going to give this EOS thing a go. What are some of the biggest hurdles that you've seen in terms of actually adopting and
Mm,
implementing it and giving it a shot at working?
right. Two things really jump out at me. One is mindset and the other is time. So mindset, someone really has to they have to want to change and be willing to put the time in for that change. That's where time comes in. It's not going to, yeah, first 2 weeks or so, you're going to see some neat improvements, but this is something that you really have to work on for about 18 months to 2 years to really see it stick. Because the worst things any company can do is try something new and then after a while, 2 or 3 months, abandon it because you only get 1 or 2, maybe 3 shots at doing that
Yeah.
over the long span of a practice.
Hmm.
Otherwise, staff will start to discreetly roll their eyes. Okay, Joe's bringing in another program. So
Right.
they've got to make sure that they're ready to change, that they're feeling enough pain that we're going to get serious about this. And we're going to dedicate the time to it because with EOS, for example, there's about 5 days out of the year that we need that leadership team to sit down and work together for a full day. And
Hmm.
then in between, there's things that need implemented.
Yeah.
So it's not something someone can just write a check for and say, okay, go make it happen.
Right.
It's a full participation sport.
That's so true. And in the handful of medical practice that I've observed, that a lot of times it's really difficult for the physician who's typically the visionary, for good
Mhm.
reason. It's their practice and they're in surgery all day, not running the operations of the company.
Right.
And you got the integrator and then them kind of having that full trust and kind of casting the vision, but then letting go,
Right.
and letting the integrator kind of do their thing can be a very difficult thing at any business, but I would say particularly challenging for doctors who, in normal situations are the experts at their thing.
Yes.
Like they are the end all be all when it comes to what are you going to do to my eye? but it
Right.
doesn't have to be that way for the business. And so can take some time to get used to that dynamic, I think.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
tell you what, having a great visionary integrated relationship, working relationship is critical.
It's
And
powerful.
for your audience, if they're not familiar, I mean, the visionary, that's the person that has all these great ideas. Typically, the person that founded the practice or owns the practice. Your integrator, that's your person that makes things happen. I was the integrator in our practice, and it's sometimes they're called the COO, sometimes the CEO, but most importantly, we like to say they keep the trains running on time, but
Yeah,
they're the ones that are keeping everything going.
that's right.
That relationship, if the doctor can find that right person, implement EOS, they will really appreciate being in practice and go take care of their patients.
This is so good. There's so much more we could talk about in terms of
Yes.
EOS, but this is a good little introduction. Tom, thank you so much for joining me. For those who would want to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you online?
Uh, Great question. You can find me on LinkedIn, but send me an email or a text or call. So Tom.Restivo, and Restivo spelled Restivo at eosworldwide.com. Or my cell is 309-310-4238. I'd love to speak with you or hear from you. Uh, with EOS, one of our core values is help first.
Mm,
So even if this is something you're curious about, have a conversation. You'll probably walk away with one or two pearls that'll make it well worth your time.
for sure. Love it. Tom, thanks so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you.